What's the Book of Enoch? Where does it come from? And what was its status within early Judaism and Christianity? Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. The fit for this video is Unicourse. And the Book of Enoch is a collection of different literary productions, numbering 5 to 7, depending on how you divide them up. And this is a pseudepigraphic collection of texts that was written within Hellenistic Judaism. The earliest literary layers probably go back to around 300 BCE, if not a little earlier, although some traditions may have been adopted from earlier than that. And then the last part, the very last chapter, the final book of Enoch, chapter 108, was probably written in the 1st century CE, around the time that the New Testament was being written. And these are not written as a single continuous narrative. They're actually different books that were brought together at a later time. So we have the Book of Watchers at the beginning, which is basically fan fiction about Genesis 6. It's retelling the story of Genesis 6 with angels and talks about their motivations and talks about all the wicked things they do, basically to introduce evil to human society. So in a sense, it is accounting for the existence of evil among humans. The next segment, chapters 37 to 71, is the Book of Parables, which shares a few different parables related to an eschatological vision that Enoch has about the Son of Man and things like that. Then we have the Book of Luminaries, which goes from chapters 72 to 82, and this is an account of the heavens and the calendar and how everything is nice and ordered. And then we have Dream Visions from chapter 83 to 90. And there are two main visions. One's about the flood. The other is what's called the animal apocalypse, which retells some of the stories from earlier passages, only represents the characters as different types of animals. Epistle of Enoch goes from chapters 91 to 105, and this is Enoch basically exhorting his sons to remain faithful, and particularly Methuselah. Then we have chapters 106 to 107, which talk about the birth of Noah, and this is the story where Noah is born and he has white hair and white and red body, and his eyes shine like the sun. And right after he was born, he stood up and praised God, and this freaked out his father, who went to Enoch and said, "This doesn't seem like my son." And then Enoch was like, "No, it's your son. He's going to save humanity, give them rest," all this kind of stuff. And then the final book of Enoch is kind of a summary and a wrapping up of what the book is about, and it promises deliverance to the righteous and destruction of the wicked. Now, these texts were phenomenally influential within early Judaism as well as early Christianity. There were 11 different manuscripts of 1st Enoch discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, which means there were more copies of Enoch discovered there than any other biblical books apart from Genesis, Deuteronomy, Isaiah, and the Psalms. So it was a phenomenally influential text. And it was phenomenally influential on the ideologies of the New Testament as well. The concepts of hell that we see in the New Testament are pulling from the Enochic tradition. The notion of the Son of Man is pulling from the Enochic tradition. Concepts of Satan are pulling from the Enochic and other related traditions, and it's even directly quoted. The 14th and 15th verses of the letter of Jude quote directly from Enoch chapter 1, verse 9, and it is attributed to Enoch, 7th from Adam. Treats this as historical, as authoritative. Now, while it was phenomenally influential on the New Testament, after that was completed and the apologists of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th centuries took up an attempt to try to intellectualize the gospel and make it more palatable to the Greco-Roman elite, they struggled with the Book of Enoch because it would have had to have survived from before the flood, and they didn't think that was very likely, and they also didn't like that there were a lot of inconsistencies and contradictions within the book. Because again, these are different stories that were brought together at a later time. They're frequently telling the same stories over and over again, but the details differ between them. So probably around the beginning to the middle of the 4th century CE, it fell out of favor. However, not before Syrian missionaries took the Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation of the Jewish scriptures, which included 1st Enoch, down to what was then known as the Kingdom of Aksum, modern-day Ethiopia. And this is why the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church has 1st Enoch as a part of its canon. That canon developed in Ethiopia separate from what was going on further up north in Europe, where Enoch would fall out of favor with the thought leaders within early Christianity. Now, the narratives within 1st Enoch are not historical. They are more like fan fiction. This is people expanding on, innovating on, elaborating on the narratives that we find in Genesis 6 and elsewhere. So this is not some secret history that has been lost. It does, however, give us a lot of information on where some of the ideologies that we find within early Judaism and early Christianity came from. And studying this can help us better understand those texts. I've said you can't really fully understand the New Testament without understanding First Enoch. Now, in terms of translation, I think the most scholarly is the Hermeneia translation, which was done by Nicolsburg and Vanderkam, and this is drawn from their Hermeneia commentary series, the 2 volumes they did on the book of First Enoch. So if you would like a very technical, scholarly, deep dive into Enoch, I highly recommend checking out their 2 volumes on First Enoch from the Hermeneia commentary series.